And tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be Evel Knievel. Look at this thing. This is a Harley Davidson XR1200. And while we're all quick to pick on other manufacturers who've gone after a slice of the Harley pie in cruiser world, well, Harley, back in 2008, did exactly the same thing. In an effort to chase kind of European riders, younger riders, basically people who didn't ride cruisers and Harleys already, they decided to pull on some flat track heritage, a little bit of young racing lifestyle, and come out with this, which is the Harley XR1200. So it's a sportster effectively. It's 1200cc V-twin engine, 1200-ish cc, and more ground clearance, sharper steering, more sport bikiness than kind of any Harley that came before it. Was it very sporty? Not really. Did it sell very well? Sadly not, no. People who wanted sports bikes bought sports bikes. People who wanted Harleys just bought normal Harleys. And these never really hit it off, which is a crying shame because it is actually a really cool thing. Prices on these, interestingly, it's probably quite a safe buy. They went down to being pretty worthless and then they've come back up, and now clean ones are kind of the same price as they were new. So it's one of those bikes that if you fancy one, you're a bit curious, you could probably buy one and run it for a couple of years and at least get your money back, as long as you didn't get stitched up and buy a dud. Speaking of duds, reliability wise, this is not a highly strung engine. It might not come as a surprise to you. This isn't a wound up, tuned up rever of a thing. It's the old school Sportster motor, a very well developed unit that Harley had for years and years and years and years and years. So you're not talking cutting edge technology that's at risk of not being quite right. A few things to look out for. Drive belts on them. If you're used to drive chains, a belt is a different thing. They're supposed to last 50-odd thousand miles, so you're not going to be changing them every 5 minutes, but it is a more complicated job to change a belt than it would be to change a chain. Elsewhere, look a little bit about corrosion. The one thing that did let these down was they were pretty bad for corroding. So if you're going to own one, keep it out the salt, keep it clean, look after it. And if you've got signs of corrosion on the bolts, on the casings, unless you really like fixing snap bolts, step away or price your offer down accordingly. The one thing you do want to make sure you do if you've got one, good battery, keep it on a trickle charger. You do not want to be trying to bump start one of these, and that big motor needs a lot of force to turn it over. The specimen we've got here, again, we've partnered up with the guys at M&P Motorcycles in Swansea, so this is one of their used bikes they've got in for sale. This one, I'm going to double check the price, is about 7 grand. Wrapped headers, different silencer, different foot pegs, loads and loads of little custom tweaks all over it. Probably some of the neatest indicators I've seen on a custom bike. Yeah, it's a cool thing. It really stands out. Everyone that's walked past has kind of double taken on it. Double taken? Double tooken. Looked at it twice, like that. I'm really into it, and I cannot wait to go and give it a ride. The sun is shining, we're going to go and find some good roads and see what a good handling Harley Davidson from that era actually handles like. I think this is going to be quite loud. Shaking. Nice. So these videos are brought to you courtesy of M&P Motorcycles in Swansea and, of course, data tag. Now, buying a used bike, data tag, if the bike is already data tagged, you can go online and for a few quid you can re-register data tag to you, your address, your details. So it doesn't matter who bought the data tag kit in the first place, you can re-register it, and then if your bike gets nicked or stripped and the parts disappear onto eBay, you'll be able to get all the stuff back. So it's worthwhile doing. It doesn't cost very much at all, and it's a nice extra security and insurance peace of mind. Today, I've been riding this Harley Davidson XR1200. It's different. I did get asked whether it was better or worse than a Scrambler or a Hypermotard. If in outright performance terms, it's a bit slower, it doesn't handle as well, the brakes aren't as good, the suspension's not, so on paper, it's not that amazing. It's 91 horsepower, it's 255 kilos dry, and then you add fuel and it goes up even higher. It doesn't make sense on paper at all. yet I love it. It's absolutely brilliant fun. Nothing is for free on this bike. Charging across, we've been up on one of our favourite mountain roads today. Charging through the bends, it doesn't just drop onto its side in a corner. You've got to wrestle it in, and once it's in, you've got to keep willing it to go around the corner. Then when you open the throttle and catch a bump, it starts to buck, and you've got to work hard on it. And that is so addictive. It's so much fun to ride. And it all centers around, obviously, literally and in a metaphorical sense, it centers around that giant 1200 engine. At tickover, the engine literally shakes back and forth in the frame. Everything wobbles. Get it rolling, get actually cruising at 70 mile an hour on the motorway, it's reasonably smooth. The only time I really suffered with tingly fingers was when I was going for it for a long time, high RPM. I did get some buzzy hands then. But really, it's a lot smoother than I ever thought it could be. And the power delivery, it's got a real nice rumbling, proper old school V-twin feel for it. People always go on about Harley engines and that being the centerpiece of them. I get it, I see why. I've absolutely adored this engine. And then between the feel of that motor and wrestling the chassis and trying to make it do stuff, it should be rubbish. I shouldn't be enjoying it, but I've had one of the most entertaining days out I've had in a long time. Now, for all my excited jumping up and down about a stupid wobbly old Harley, there are some limitations, for sure. I started trying to ride it a little bit like a supermoto and skid around on it and brake really hard into corners, and it didn't take long before it was running out of brakes. I got the brakes very hot, it didn't really want to stop then. Guess what? It's not a supermoto, who knew? You've got to appreciate that this is never going to be a super sport bike. But if you want something that you can ride in a sporty style, you can ride throwing it from corner to corner and rag it up and down the gears, but that's a little bit different and that's going to put a massive smile on your face without having to do 1,000,000 mile an hour everywhere. This is a proper oddball choice. And the first time I've ever ridden one, today, I've come away really thinking about it. Ooh, am I a Harley guy?